Steven Jobit is my name. I'm a product designer. I use colors a lot. Like if you look at anything that I build, you will notice colors are a lot. That is my brand style. People is that they appreciate growth. It's something innate in us as human beings. We appreciate growth. Like when you see someone, they were here and now they are here. You really appreciate how far they have come. For longevity purposes, please do not follow trends. So that is a piece of advice I'll even give my fellow designers. Please do not follow trends. It will not go well.
Karibuni sana to Kenyan Design Conversations. Again, this is going to be one of my best episodes. Lakini kabla niende mbali sana on what we'll be talking about. Kwanza nataka kuintroduce watu wako around. So my guest, my co-host, and our guest co-host audience.
Mi naitwa Mariga, mi ni developer, napenda designing, lakini sijaanza kuwa designer bado. Nataka kubreak hiyo bond between hatred ya developer na designer.
Lakini.
Sasa nataka nijibreak into two. Without any further ado, Steven, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, but before you go, don't be modest.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Don't be modest.
Don't be modest. Just say your achievements as they are.
Yeah, modesty is not my strongest suit. So hapo ndio msijali. Anyway, Steven Jobit is my name. I'm a product designer. I've been in the field for about 5-6 years. I think my greatest achievement is the fact that, and this is usually a very good conversation starter, is I normally tell people that in campus I did food science. Like I'm a certified food science nutritionist. And so I always find like what would really, people ask me, how did you get into, how did you get into tech and how did you become a designer? And I usually say like, of course, number one, God. But number two, just being able to, I like to challenge myself. And so, getting into tech was a very big challenge for me. One of my biggest strengths as a designer is being able to put myself in the audience's shoes in asking the question, what do they really want? Like there's what they're saying they want, but what do they really want? And that is normally a very big strength for me. So nilianzanga kama nutritionist, lakini saizi mimi ni product designer. Na kaende vile tunaendelea.
Uja design ni yote ina deal na chakula.
Mimi the first thing I ever designed when I got into product design was what's it called? A food delivery app. That's how much I love food, So it was like also in a way to pay homage to where I actually came from. So it was like it was terrible. Like I look at it nowadays, I'm like, hey, this thing was bad. The buttons were not the same size. There was no consistency in font. The colors were off. Everything was just, there was no hierarchy. Yani ilikuwa tu mbaya. But I love it to date and I keep it because it acts like a reminder of where I've actually come from.
Ni kama X.
Okay, see evil. See evil, but you can say that. Yes, so that in a nutshell is me, but of course, Najwa will get to know a bit more about me even as we continue with our conversation.
Unavanga suti?
Maybe never. Actually, don't like suits. Yeah, actually, my wife has been struggling to get me to wear suits for years. I don't. I think the biggest compromise nakuanga nayo ni khaki, like khaki na shati. That is the most I can do. But suits, I do not like them. I don't know why.
Lakini okay, sawa. Lakini mimi niko na swali. Hii imekuwa ikinisumbua for the longest time. You find developers and designers who are good at their work. When it comes to clothing, unaangalia mtu amevalisha hii design vizuri, ameivalisha lakini wao.
Please do not. We are not supposed to be judged by our clothing. We are supposed to be judged by our, by our delivery. Civil nimevaa.
So nasemanga show me your friend, I'll show you you are at least.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think because we focus so much on what we do, we don't sleep enough. So maybe that part of our brain that tells us to dress well is normally so tired after kulala for like hours tatu. So it usually does not. That I think is the one part about being in tech that I was never warned about. The fact that you don't sleep. Hiyo part ndio sikuambiwa kabisa. Nilipata culture shock mbaya.
Ai, tumezoea kuitwa ma night owls.
Ndio hiyo sasa.
Anyway, so today we are going to talk about business.
Yes.
The business side of design.
Yes.
When a millionaire through design.
Mimi. I wish I like if I was to sell everything I've ever made and sell them well. Yeah. I don't think I'd still be a millionaire. I think millionaires were not. I honestly believe, designers, for you to be a millionaire, like you really have to be doing it for a long time, to the point where the amount you charge for one thing, like you can do one project and it sets you for life.
But mimi designers wanalipa milioni kwa mwezi.
Yeah, but ask them the question, nini walianza wapi?
Niliulizanga hiyo swali. So ni wengi, ni kama wawili. Lakini sasa leo ni wewe kutuambia biashara sasa.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a believer that for every designer, one thing that many designers have not really taken time to really delve into is like the business side of design. Mara nyingi, whenever you hear people talk about like, I want to be a designer, their focus usually is on one thing and one thing only: pushing pixels. I want this thing to be good. I want the logo to pop. I want to make the logo bigger. I want the colors to be more vibrant. I want it to be, but they never really stop to think, how is it that, like, how does business marry with, design? And I think what sets apart like a good designer and a great designer is that one aspect. How, being able to figure out how do these two things marry, at what point do they marry? Because our mabeshte wako that are earning millions, I'm a very strong believer, they just don't make things look good. Like, they understand business, And how this thing started for me was when I started when I set out as a designer, time nilikuwa nafunzwa, my very first job was at a design studio, and I was among the very first designers to be hired. And so we used to have like an array of clients. Tulikuwa na clients different, tulikuwa na clients, who are in this field, who are in this field, who are in this field. And very quickly, I learned that when you are having a conversation with them, you could not like frame your words in the same way, And what actually helped me was a few years prior, nilikuwa nimefanya kazi insurance. So I sold insurance for about a year. And in that period, I learned something, that whenever I was going to pitch my idea to potential clients, what used to happen was every time I would go to like a different client, I would modify my pitch a little bit. So because very quickly I learned that the needs of people are different. For example, nini mtu mwenye ako single kama wewe, Mariga.
Yes.
And someone that is married, their needs are different, sindio? So you can't go trying to sell the same thing in the same way to someone that is married and to someone that is single. So that is, I think, the first time I ever started to really think about the fact that, thinking about the user and thinking about the end user in terms of the product that you're trying to sell really matters. But then secondly, we used to have a manager who used to tell us all the time that at the end of the day, no matter how good you are at pitching your ideas, what will keep you employed is how much business you bring in. You could have the sweetest mouth from here to tomorrow, but kama hauleti biashara, you will not. And so I started to ask questions like, so how does one gauge that huyu mtu ameleta biashara mzuri na huyu mtu ameleta biashara yenye sio mzuri? And that really started to open my mind to, it is not just about kwenda nje na kuuza, it is about what is the quality of business that you bring in. So nikaanza kufikiria sasa, like now that I've become a designer, how do I talk to this client? Jamaa amekuja, he says he just wants a logo, sindio? Let me give an example. And how can I talk to him in such a way to let him know that a logo is not enough, that he needs a brand identity? Yeah, ajui hiyo ni nini, you know. So how do you talk to him, not about how people will view you? No. How do you talk to him in terms of ita benefit biashara yako aje? How will it bring in more clients? How will it help you to close more business? How will it move more units and things like that? So for example, if he has a product and he just wants, nipe tu logo, nita print your label, niweke, you know. But if you tell him that if we were to design that label very well and place it in a manner that can really stand out for shelves, this is the projected number of sales that you can get. You know, like if you start to talk like that, this one will be like, mtu anajua kitu yenye anasema, you know, kitu yenye anasema. So I believe that designers need to learn how to talk the language of business, and basically the language of business is the language of numbers. It is the language of numbers. Like you need to be able to tell us, if we are to do this thing like this business decision that we are making, this user experience decision that we're making, how is it going to translate to us being able to meet the goals that we have as a business? You know, and things like that. So learning that, I say that I am blessed enough to have been able to have worked in very many fields. Nilifanya kazi Coca-Cola, nilifanya kazi insurance, nilifanya kazi service delivery, nilifanya kazi kwa courier, and the experiences that I had in all those places really helped me to know how business runs. So now when I am, you know, talking to clients or to stakeholders, I know what they want to hear because I've been in those fields before. And ukifanya hivyo, you actually find that you get invited to more and more of these meetings, and stakeholders actually get to know your name, you know, because nasemaga kuna huyu jamaa, yes, yeye ni designer, but anajua kuongea language yetu.
Lakini based on what you have told us, let me start from here. Nilipelekwanga shule na babangu. Nikasoma 844 system. This 844 system never taught me about the business side of everything. It was about go to school, learn, have the skill, you'll get employed. And the employment perspective was like, if you get a 6-figure salary, you're good to go. Okay, you get a 6-figure salary, you'll be able to get a loan, you know, you'll have some little savings, you can buy a car, you can buy a house, and that's it. But and then that's where a majority of us are. You have the skill, but you don't know how to monetize it. Yes. But from you know, like from you selling insurance, kwanza insurance. Oh my God, these people naonanga even nasikia not now.
Wacha bwana.
Yes. Because they usually budget for me even my money that I can't even see how I can budget it anyway. You see, like that art that you learned, you know, from selling everything and interacting in different fields, from courier, Coca-Cola. I think that's an eye opener to everyone else. Sasa kama wase kama sisi wenye tuko experienced kwa vitu mingi, ndio unafaa sasa tujibu, how do you leverage that now at least? How do you transition from your skill and equating it to business, you know, like mimi nikiangalia mimi niko like hata project yote niko nayo, maybe the cheapest naweza chukua maybe ni hiyo 6-figure yenye nilikuwa naambiwa. Yes.
And while you're responding to that, maybe you can throw in why it's not enough to just be good at design, because you've mentioned that but lightly.
Okay, let me borrow a quote that your former guest, her name was Michelle, right?
Yes.
She said that the design market currently is very saturated. Very, very saturated. And one of the things we observe over time that has happened is that there's been what I call the evolution of design. Design has moved from being able to use design software, being able to make something look pretty, being able to put things together to create something, you know. So as a designer, I believe it is not just enough for that, because you're 5 people that apply for the same job, and all of you are very good designers. Like, I've met very good designers. But simple things like, can you communicate your design, your design decisions, things like that? Can you think beyond just design? Can you think of design holistically on how it impacts the business? Things like that. So it's not just enough to be good at design, but it is important for you to know, like, how does design fit into the bigger picture of the organization? Because I am a believer that by the time a company, let's say, company ABC, is setting out to hire a designer, there's the broader picture that they have. So it is key for you to know, how does your role fit into this broader picture? Because kumbuka, at the end of the day, you need to give these people value. You need to give them value. You need to be able to do more than just, Mimi, they hired me, they're working on a mobile app, so Mimi siniwajenge tu UI, ni ship out to dev kama he can put it together, shauri yake, kama hawezi, shauri yake, I'm sticking to my job. But being able to be of value beyond just your role, because hata ukisomanga job descriptions, I remember Chendereta, there was a day you posted on LinkedIn, and you actually asking the question, like, is it my job, is it my JD that people normally post when they want to design? Where do they get them from? Because someone is looking for a designer, but they want you to be good at HTML and CSS. They want you to be good at they want you to be good at marketing. They want you to be good at social media. They're just looking for value. So how can you, with the skills that you have? In my case, I found that my sales skills helped me to be able to understand business goals from the standpoint of meeting the user's needs. So that really helped me. So the question now becomes, that skill that you have, maybe you're not very good at talking to people, maybe you're very good at systems. So how do you leverage the aspect of systems, into what your role is as a designer? Mariga, you are a dev, sindio? The
Yes.
question now becomes, how do you carry your skills come a dev? Like, what is the underlying skill that you've learned as a developer that you can translate into design? I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine who's also my mentor called Amisi. Amisi was a developer. He's now a designer. He's now a product designer. Amisi normally tells me that knowing how difficult code is, and how difficult it is to move a button from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, makes him very empathetic when he is building his designs. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu anajua the dev is going to give needs to code this thing. You get? So at the end of the day, what is that value? What that skill of yours you need to figure out, as in, how does it fit into the bigger picture that the organization is trying to achieve, beyond just making things look pretty, na kujenga screens, and things like that.
Yeah, that's very, very insightful.
I'm just okay. Now let's talk about your special skill. So
Yeah.
how do you manage to actually balance business needs and user needs? Because
Okay.
now you're a designer. Alafu,
Yeah.
how do you even figure out business needs, even when they're not clearly saying them?
Yeah, even when they're not clearly saying them. So
Let me give you an example. There's this client who approached us. It's a startup. They need a whole digital presence. Na mimi mwenyewe sijui sasa digital presence na mkuotaje. So kuna website, kuna logo, kuna brand kit, you see all that.
Yeah.
Mi kwa kichwa wangu sasa sinaona 6 figure. Nikamwambia ni 6 figure. Akasema iko sawa, we can start. Naona. But sasa mimi time nilirudi back nikaangalia yenyewe nahitaji more skills to make client akuwe na hiyo digital presence.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there hebu ni explain venye naweza muonyesha hii value ni hivi, bala kutisha 6 figure naweza kutisha a million. Yes.
Okay. So what I normally do with my clients, and I think every designer needs to do this, and E-Kitu is another skill, talking to clients. So when you meet a client for the first time, let's say a client comes to you and then they want you to, do something for them. Like you said, they need that digital presence. You see, the idea is in the client's head. So one of the first things I normally do is I have what I call a discovery meeting with them. And I just, in that meeting, I talked to them about the company. I talked to them about how they, how they started, what their goals are, how do they work, like what is their business model, how do they, like if they're shipping a product, how do they ship the product, what is their client base, how do they do their market, things like that. By doing this, what I'm doing is I'm trying to create a map of like to be in his shoes to try and figure out what exactly does he need. Because he may come and tell you, I need a I need a digital presence. But from the conversations that you're having, even to the point of trying to ask him, like what are some of the challenges that you're having, you will discover that maybe there's something that is really a challenge for him, but he had not really seen it. I'll give you an example of a platform that we build. Now, where I work, we deal with they're called child welfare officer, basically like social workers. Now, social workers for the longest time have used paper-based, systems. So on a file. And that is a file. When they go to do visits, they write down, the report on the file. So when we went, we were like, we need to build for these people a digital platform. Because history ya files, sijui moto, file inaweza potea, chai inaweza mwagikia, nini mtoia inaweza tumia kuosha jiko, things like that. But upon going and having a conversation with them, we quickly realized a digital platform was not the biggest challenge they had. The biggest challenge they had was a means of communication between themselves and their managers in the event that a challenge arose in the field. Or if there was a problem with a particular case that they were working on, how can they update that without having to write it down, scan it, and send it to the manager, and then when he has time, he will see it. So having that discovery meeting, I feel, is very important, and it is something that comes, sisi kama designers atuangaliangi sana. Sisi tuangalianga tunaweza tengeneza pesa ngapi toka kwa hii deal. I've always wanted a monitor. Kwanza ile curved monitor 34 inches. So I start to budget na hii pesa ya huyu mtu before, like your focus now needs to be what does this guy really need? So from that discovery conversation, I find that it is normally from there is where you start to have things like, what are their business goals? Some they may know, some they may say outright, some you can just like figure out as you're going through the need, So from there, what we now do is we create a roadmap. We create a roadmap. We create a roadmap of, so you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And so this, itakuwa hivi. So by the time you've broken down that roadmap for them, by the time unamwambia, so this I'm going to charge you 1,500 USD, he will feel like, by the way, for what this guy is going to do and how you've laid it out for them, it is really going to, it is worth the amount of money that he's asking. Now that has to do with project management. Studio. So that is another skill now that you need to learn. You get? Yes. So just learning things like that helps you to do more than wacha niwashe Illustrator, niwacha niwashe Photoshop, niwashe Figma, nianze. And that is the one part about design that, many designers, including myself, do not like. Iyo planning. Iyo go through the phases, kufanya the documentation, kufanya, to do the brainstorming before washe Illustrator. Sisi tunatakanga client anataka nini, wacha tuwashe Figma. I go to the Figma community. I find idea, I copy and paste without really thinking to myself, is this really what this client needs? Is this really meeting their business goals? Does this help them to achieve UTO2 goals that he or she mentioned to you when you're having your initial meeting? So I find that to be very key. And that is a skill that, again, as designers, we really need to learn.
By the time you are done, this is what I've taken away. It's very, very crucial to have that discovery meeting with the client. However, you mentioned that you did realize that whatever was in the client's head, whatever their idea was, and the actual problem was quite different. So how did you put him on that level? Or her on that level,
So usually it comes now when we have our second meeting. You don't tell it to them immediately. Because ukiwambia immediately, how it normally comes out is like you're behaving like you know better than they know. You get? So what happens is when you are now going to write a report, because normally when I do my roadmap from the initial meeting, I normally do, number one, the problems that he stated. Then I normally have a small field up for normally call them either projected or expected problems or issues that may arise. This is something probably he has been thinking about, but hajafikiria sana. So when we are now having our second meeting and going through the roadmap, I normally go through that first before I start to break down how we're going to solve this problem. I give him like a report of sorts, like from the conversation we had. This is your company. This is what these are your goals. This is what you're trying to do. It is also good because sometimes the goal you think is a goal is not a goal. So to be able to be helped to refine that during that meeting is normally very key. So you think also from the meeting I got this was a goal, then he'll tell you hapana hii sio hii ni hivi. So now that you've made that change, so imagine not having written that down, you start work and then somewhere along the line you say, so we did this and the justification for it was to be able to achieve this goal, only for him to tell you, no, that was not a goal that we have. You get? Yeah, so after the discovery meeting, I normally have what I call a product roadmap meeting with them to lay down what the problem is, what the possible solutions are, and then from those solutions, like you normally have like 3 or 4, you choose one. In an idealistic sense, a UX process should solve one problem per time. For example, if you're having an onboarding issue, an entire UX process just solves that one in an idealistic sense. Where if we were to have unlimited time with unlimited funds, we would do it like that. But more often than not, you do like several at the same time. So being able to do that, I normally find it to be very key, so that moving forward, you and the client are on the same page. This also helps to minimize history as scope creep, where you had a goal, but then 2 weeks later he tells you, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine over coffee, and she mentioned that this could also be a thing. So can we add that one as well? But the minute we have a roadmap, hata pricing na rules pia tuna set saa hizo. You're like, oh, so now this is how we do it. This is wanga tunafanya. This is the pricing. So in case anything needs to come on board, this is the process we follow. We need to first validate whether it is an issue or not, and inaingia wapi, and does it affect our budget. I remember this time there's a client who wanted to add something to what we were already working on. Nikamuuliza, do you have the extra budget for that? Akamuuliza, what do you mean extra budget? Nikamwambia, no, that is not within the scope that we had initially discussed. So anything that is now extra comes at an extra cost. So do you have the budget for that? And it happened that they did not. So having those meetings, and it is something I observe very many designers do not take time to do. Just having those meetings such that by the time you are cracking open a design software, you and the client and any other stakeholder that is there are on the same page.
That's very insightful
and eye-opening.
Yes. So like, but this bigger question now, ndio you have set the roadmap and everything, but how do you approach setting your rates?
Yeah, and
setting your rates.
Yes, and negotiating about it and handling.
Hii swali niliona pia nani really scattered around it, because there isn't. I think in the period that I've been in the field, I've found that there are normally two key things that are very important. Number one is that you need, once you understand the scope of the project. The project can be a 2-week project. Cindy,
yes.
It can be a 12-week project, depending on the scope of what it is you're going to do. Now, it is normally very difficult I don't normally advocate for hourly billing. The reason for that is that I've been in the field for many years. When I started, I could build something in 2 days. Now I can build it in 3 hours. So does it mean then that am I not of more value now that I'm able to do it in 3 hours than I was when I was able to do it in 2 days? So the problem is, if you bill per hour, you really limit yourself, because it's like the more skilled and the more adept you become at what you do, the lesser you earn. So Manga, bill based on value. What value are you giving them? Like you said, is it a 2-week project? If it's a 2-week project, you bill per project. If it's a 12-week project, which is a longer period, one of the ways I found which works very well is the milestone method, whereby you say like you break down the like the project, let's say like to 3-week milestones. So in 3 weeks, this needs to have happened. So when this happens, there's a payment that we receive. So before that payment is received, we don't move on to the next phase. And then of course, at the beginning, always, I tell this to designers all the time, always get a financial commitment from the client. Usianze kazi bila pesa. Tafadhali. I know we want to work because the only way for us to build our reputation and to build our dini as designers is to do work, but please, this is Kenya, remember. Get a financial commitment from the client. Have a certain amount that is given as a down payment, because I've also found that when a client has given part of their money to the project, they will not bail on you. But ukifanya tu hivyo tu ati me, I'm just being a good person, or let them just start. I want to, but people will show you things. The things we have seen in this town, people will show you things. So number one, always get a commitment from the client. Number two, build based on the project. If it's a short-term project, build based on the project. If it's a long-term project, do milestones. Say by the time we do this, this is the amount that we receive.
So for me, I have this model. I get a client. We do the budget and everything. Alafu mi nasemanga ni 50-50. 50 in the beginning and 50 at the end. 50%. How is that model?
That model is good for a short-term project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for a short-term project, it's very good. But let me ask you a question. If you are to be doing, I'll give an example. I worked on a health records management system for a hospital that's based in Nairobi. The project took 3 months, and we had milestones monthly, month 1, month 2, month 3. Yeah. And the total cost, I won't say how much, but it was a 6-figure, very high 6-figure. Okay. Now, you tell me, you've just gotten into this deal with this client. Put yourself in the client's shoes. Would they be willing to pay you 50% at the beginning? Or do you think it would be better for them if they broke it into 3? Now, this is sure. You now. So depending on the scope of the project, kama ni ile tu we need you just to work on this, give us a give us a digital identity, and it'll take like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That one is fine. That will do 50-50, it's fine. But if it's a longer term project, try the milestone one. You'll be very shocked, by the way. You'll be very shocked at how more and more clients are willing to do it, because at any one point, if anything changes, it's very good to deny it rather than, because again, you also have to remember the client is afraid if they pay you the 50%, Exactly. So if you put it in the form of milestones, even if, God forbid, even if the designer goes away, you've not lost as much money as compared to if you gave them 50%.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Sasa tuingie kwa clients. At least tumesikia story ya pesa, tuingie kwa clients. How do you identify how do you find and attract quality clients? Kuna client anakujanga ako ambitious. Lakini ukifika kwa mfuka na kuambia ako na 10,000 unashangaa.
Yeah. So there's a phrase I normally use.
Yes.
You cannot get quality clients when you're sitting in your house. You have to put yourself out there.
Ngoja to load. Irudie and then pause for 2 minutes.
You cannot. You cannot get quality clients if you're sitting in your house. What I mean by that is, people will never know how good of a designer you are if you do not put what you've created out there, no matter how bad it is. No matter how bad you think it is. Weka. Okay? The other thing I've come to learn about people is that they appreciate growth. It's something innate in us as human beings. We appreciate growth. Like when you see someone, they were here and now they are here, you really appreciate how far they have come, And I have found that one thing that really gets a lot of, can really, get you those clients is if they're able to see the progression of your growth. I have a portfolio. Please have a portfolio. Have a digital one, not a printed one. Have a digital one. okay, where you send people a link. That is number one. Number two, curate your portfolio to fit your personality. Now, there are different kinds of people. Me, I'm a very bubbly, vibrant, out there kind of person. So you will see, like on my portfolio, I use a lot of color, things are shouting. There are other people that are a lot more mellow, a lot more, a lot more chilled, a lot more corporate. So tailor make your portfolio to fit your personality. When I get.
Yes.
Because you can't get all clients. By the way, let me bust out. You can't get all clients. I always say better clients what? And
Yeah.
design is a very broad field. So you need to find your niche. So once you find your niche, you tailor make your portfolio in that manner so that people that resonate with it will look for you. You know those people of, I want this thing to pop. I want it to scream. I want that nikisimama pale naweza iona. That was the motto, by the way, we had at the first job I had as a designer. It was written on the wall, make it scream. Like that was the motto.
Make it scream.
Make it scream. Like that's what we lived by. We used bright colors, vibrant colors, things that we wanted it that if our sign was put next to the sign of someone else, you will see ours first. That's what we always worked with. So tailor making your portfolio to match your personality. That's number two. Number three, network. Do what? Say it with
Network.
me. Network. Thank you. Network. Thank you. Yes. Network. You cannot know people if you're sitting at home. Me, I'm just a designer. I go to work. I finish. See, they will just see my things. See, I'm
Yes.
just see, I post on LinkedIn daily. See everything I do. No, network. And I am actually a perfect example for that. There are opportunities I've had this year because Nini Chantel, you remember the Google developer Nini that happened last year in November? You remember the many people that I met there?
Yes, I do remember.
Do you know when I came into that meeting, the only person I knew was you? Yes. And by the time I was leaving, I knew everyone.
Yeah.
And I have been called to things this year by the people I met in that one meeting. Meeting. But imagine if I told myself, me, I'll just sit at home, I'll just be, no, there are people who are not on social media 24/7. But if you go to, to meet up like friends of Figma, if you go to UX Nairobi, you go to, you go to these events, you will meet people there. 90% of my clients are actually referrals. 90% of the clients I have are referrals. Someone
So your
who knows
network is your
someone.
network.
My network is my net worth. So many projects I have. It is my friend who, by then kuna bishtangu fulani, anaitwa Jupiter. I think he can do that for you. Me, I'm just get a call. Oh, but I was given your number by so and so, And when that you do a very good job for that client, they refer you to their friend. Who refers you to their friend? Who refers you to their friend? And that is how you attract quality clients. It is not a very straightforward process. You have to try many things, but in that way, many people will get to know who you are. Let me tell you, there's no meeting I ever go that I don't leave that place without people knowing that I am a designer. I make it a point. Everybody must know I am a designer. Everybody must know. Everybody must know that I'm a designer. And that's how, I've been able to get the clients and the projects that I have until now. So much so that nowadays, I even turn some down.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Talking of that, I remember, I think it was at the beginning of this year. Nilipata client moja, tukafanya kazi safi. Akaturifaa kwa mwingine, tukamfanyia kazi safi. Sasa ametuletea class. Yani hiyo referral imeleta class ka 5 extra.
Exactly. But also, by the way, and the other thing you also need to, I think it is important for us to mention,
Yes.
when you get a referral,
Yes.
it is not just your reputation as the designer that is on the line. It is also the reputation of the person that referred you that is on the line. Make sure you do a good job.
Yeah.
Semanga, there are some people I cannot refer. They are my friends. They are designers. They are devs. They are project managers. They are very good at what they do, but I know they will not deliver. Na kunanga kitu ngumu kama hiyo phone call vile hukuja ati buda bana mse mwenye ulinipatia huyu. It means even your reputation is at stake. So the other way also, make sure you do quality work, like you deliver and you deliver well. Yeah.
Yeah, sure thing. At least sasa hapo umeongelea relationship ya clients. Uko na swali lingine?
Niko tu na comment. Bottom line mmesema both ni the best marketing strategy ni referrals, ni kufanya kazi safi.
That is so true. That is so true.
Alafu sasa mimi nataka tuende hii place ya kujibrand kama designer. Najua umeiongelea lakini mimi nataka at least mtu atakuja kusikiza. Juu ulikuwa unaiongelea katikati ya statements. Like how do you brand yourself like a designer? Apart from umeniambia una shout. You shout everywhere.
Mimi na shout, you know.
Yes.
So the thing about design is, like I said, I remember I said that design is a very broad field, and you cannot have your feet in every part of that field. Okay, you pick a niche. All right, there are people who are my friends who their design style has to do with health. That's what they do. Everything health, that is them. Kuna watu, events is their niche. Kuna watu, marketing is their niche. There are people who, billboards are their niche. There are people who, like, people have different niche. So first it is, when you start out, of course, you will do different types. You'll have your feet in everything. In my case, when I was working at a design studio, in the morning, I would design for a hotel. In the afternoon, I'm working for a hospital. In the evening, I'm working for a politician. But as time goes by, you will quickly find out that I am good at this, but I'm very good at this. One of the things that I learned very quickly and has really helped me in being the designer that I am today is this thing called color theory. I know color theory like the back of my hand. And the reason why I learned color theory...
Actually, hata mimi nadai classes.
Nitawatumia invoice. My associate will get in touch with you. Get in touch with you.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry, we can't be short.
It is okay. So the reason I learned color theory was because when I was working at the design studio, I noticed that these different people, like, they would tell you, something like I want that when people see my thing, they respond like this. And that really got me thinking. I was like, so okay. So, for example, now the design studio, that was their niche. So they came to the place where they're like, I really need you to learn how to use, like, how do people respond psychologically to stuff. There's a reason why, like, Hosi's, their branding colors are like this. There's a reason why, like financial institutions, their branding is like this. So I learned that, and I learned how to evoke emotional reactions out of people who interact with my designs. Like, that is my style. I use colors a lot. Like, if you look at anything that I build, you will notice colors are a lot. That is my brand style. You get. So number one, it is determining what is your brand style. There are those who use shapes. Shapes is their strength. There are those who use negative space. That is their strength. There are people who use graffiti. There's this guy on LinkedIn, nimesahau jina yake. Is it Lakita or something like that? I like his style of design because he uses graffiti style. Like, his design style is more of urban street, So when you discover that this is my niche, number one. Number two, now you build around it. And you will find that clients will always gravitate towards people who meet or who fit the brand kind of thing that they're trying to do. If I'm a street style, urban mini kind of person, I will not really attract a client who is more reserved, who is more traditional, who is more, So how you set yourself up as a designer is, when you find that niche, you make sure that everything about you, revolves around that. And you make it a point to voice that. I like the way, Chedereta, normally you post your things on LinkedIn. If someone really follows your post, they will notice that there's a style you have. So anybody who comes and sees them will be like, oh, if I needed something like this, she's the one to go to, because that is your style. You get. So looking at that, number one is identifying what that niche is. Now, number two is, like I said, putting your stuff out there. Are you part of an online community? There are certain groups I'm part of on LinkedIn When there's a post there that resonates with the kind of style that you are, comment on it, repost on it, do something and post it on LinkedIn. Like, make sure people know this, people know you for this. People know you for this. People know, ni Jobita hukuanga hivi. Mariga normally talks about this, that is what people know you for. And when you do that, the other thing that it does is that it builds credibility and trust because you're very consistent. Like, tunajuanga mtu mwenye tunataka vitu of this style, go to this person because you're consistent. So that really helps you even as you brand as a designer. My parting shot will be this, and this will get me into a lot of trouble with many people, but I find it is very dangerous to tailor-make your design style around trends, especially in Kenya. Personally, I do not design around trends. Because, as you notice, in Kenya, trends change as quickly as within a week. Sindio? Yeah, they change so quickly. Now, the concern I have, especially for that person, and I normally see very many creatives, very good creatives, but almost every single one of their posts, it is something to do with what is currently trending. I'll give you an example. There's this air freshener company. I don't remember their name. Is it Tropical? There's this line of air fresheners they came out with. And on the container, they put street slang. Mapema ndio best, form ni kuzitoka. You remember? I remember asking myself the question, who was this designed for? Like, I remember asking myself the question, who was this designed for? And you can just tell, kuna tuka designer fulani hipster alikuwa kwa hiyo meeting. Asema, my guys, we need to be able to target the youth, and youths go with trends. But trends change. So will you keep on changing your design as the trends are changing? You'll realize that 2-3 years down the line, there's nothing that has been consistent about the way you do your designs because you've been following after trends. It's like a cardinal rule I have for myself. Like, even when I meet with clients and they're trying to tell me, si tunaweza tumia it yenye iko saizi, I tell them no. For longevity purposes, please do not follow trends. So that is a piece of advice I'll even give my fellow designers. Please do not follow trends. It will not go well.
Nimesikia kizungu. Mimi kama tunajonga kizungu ilikuja na meli tena usiku. For your
longevity. Longevity has to do with being around for a long time.
Yes.
Ni kwa watu ambao hawakwenda group of schools kama wewe.
Manze. Sijui kama primary yangu ilichangiwa jina kutoka DOK.
Sisi, we had a teacher that was from a group of schools, so tulikuwa sawa.
Alafu probably mahali unakaa na unajua kuna accent kidogo tu ya Kijaluo ndani yake. Ni sawa?
No, lazima. My friend, you must stay where you're from. You must stay, my friend, per adventure it comes to it that we need to discuss, very, very important things. You need to put a bit of a Luo accent in it to tell people that I am a very important person.
Siko baya. Wana shout. They shout in English. Yes.
No, lazima bana.
Anyway, sasa kuna hii sasa hii ndio inakuanga biggest of all. Nimeleta milioni kwa meza.
Nasikia kuifanyia.
Sasa hii milioni na imanage aje mimi?
Na inaniwasha, nasikia kuispend.
Na inakuwasha. So can I tell you one of the weaknesses that I have as a person?
Yeah.
I struggle with impulse buying as a person.
Yeah, okay.
Niko na pesa. Na kuna kitu inaniita na majina yangu yote. I don't really need it, but man, I want it. Now, nilijua that, of course, it is a challenge that many people normally have, especially when it comes to that point of, like, you've made money. For example, tumefanya hiyo project, ukalipwa milioni moja, lump sum. So there's normally a thing I have when it comes to how I reward myself. Now, I've created a business, like there's an organization, like there's a company. So your pesa, the first thing inakuanga is your pesa wanga si yangu. Your pesa ni ya kampuni, ni ya biashara, si ndio?
Yep.
Secondly, I have a bank account where that money goes. 3, I pay myself a salary. Jilipe? Jilipe
Ehe.
salary. Yes. Jilipe salary. If let's say
Kidogo tu. Ona ni sawa salary. Hebu tueleze hivyo unajilipa. Juu mi
vile
naweza
unajilipa
jilipa
salary.
yote.
Unaweza jilipa yote.
Juu umelipwa.
So there's I don't remember what the percentages are, but there's normally there's a formula by which you calculate how much money goes back. So like in our case, we do 65% goes back to the company, 35% goes back to production. So in the case of, let's say, because I live in my house and I already pay the bills, so unasemanga, like for example, from the 35%, 15% goes to paying myself, 20% goes to paying the utilities, like kama kuna rent mali wewe ulipa, kuna stima, maji, nini. So it's normally I take not more than 20% of what I've been paid. So example, if it's project based and let's say nimelipo milioni moja, I don't give myself more than 20%. The rest goes back to the company. You understand? Number 2,
Yes.
tunaelewa kuwa kuna kwanga na downtimes, si ndio? Kuna kwanga time biashara hakunanga. So ni ile tu kujambia tu, okay, so hii 20% nikichukua saizi, how many times can I take the 20% until hii pesa yenye niko nayo imeisha? So let's say it's 5 months, si ndio? Let's say I work from home, so I don't pay rent, I don't do a lot of, I don't pay a lot of things. So if I have within 5 months to find a project before pesa ishe. Now, if I give myself 40%, how long will it be before pesa ishe? If I give myself 30%, mnaona vitu kama hizo. So I try as much as possible that 65% goes back to the company and 35% goes back to me. Because at the end of the day, utakuwa na project. In fact, there are usually those times, man, where it is summer, people are harvesting. Kuna kwanga na biashara. Kuna kwanga na biashara mpaka tujue ufanye nini pesa. Lakini when winter comes, ndio nasema I wish bwana sige buy ile gari. I wish sige change TV yangu from a 42 inch to a 65 inch. I wish because in those moments when your pesa sasa haiko. I am lucky enough that I have an accountant because I realize I'm not very good at kumanage hizi vitu. So me, I got myself an accountant. So that accountant is the one that helps me to manage pesa yangu because I struggle with it. But it is a struggle I have. Nitaona kitu mzuri and I will want to buy it and I'll tell myself, siko na pesa.
So unapigia na accountant unamwambia nataka kubai, anakuambia
no, so now they budget for everything. And we've made it in such a way, okay, I married her, so tuko naye kwa nyumba moja. So what normally happens is that before like purchases happen, they have to be approved. Before they happen, they have to be approved. Yes. So what that does is that it keeps me in check, so that hizo times za impulse buying zikipanda, nafikiria tu lazima ni run through, lazima niambie accountant hii story. Unajua, do I really need this? Do I really need this? Ama niachane tu nayo. And so just being disciplined enough. I think also at the heart of this problem, ni discipline ndio shida. Ni discipline too. There are some that are disciplined enough to be able to manage their funds well, but then there are others that are not disciplined enough. If you feel like you're not disciplined enough, if you're able to find somebody who can help you, who can be like what I call an accountability partner, get that. Okay? Because otherwise, if not, utakuwa unatumia tu pesa na unashangaa hii pesa inaenda wapi?
Hii pesa ilikuja mingi lakini sielewi hii pesa
inaenda wapi. Yes.
Sielewi, siwezi explain.
Yeah. So if one is fortunate enough to have that level of discipline whereby they can manage the money, it's fine. But if hawezi, hii naye naambianga watu, saa zingine it is good to admit that you don't know something. Sindio? Yes. So you get somebody who can help you with that. And thirdly, and most of all, please pay your tax. Pay your tax. Hao watu watakukujia. Pay your taxes.
One day, one time.
One day, one time, they will find you. Pay your taxes. If you can, pay your taxes. Yeah.
Sawa, lakini sasa pia design, unajua pia designer wanasemanga lazima create passive income. Sasa kama designer, ana create aje passive income kutoka kwa skill ya design?
Well, you can, like Mimi, see, now that you guys, I'm going to send you invoice for kuwafunza color theory. One of the ways you can do
Yes.
that is if you've like created like a course, you can sell that. You can have like a few people that you're training, number one. Number two, if you have like kits, if you have like design systems or kits that you can monetize, you can do that
Yeah.
as well. So of course you just put them out there. If someone wants them, I mean, they're all over. If you go to like Dribble, if you go to Behance, there are people who are actually selling their UI kits, their design systems. There are even some who are selling like an entire. It's called like they build a project from start to finish, and they're selling that project. So that's one of the ways also that you can like just add on to what you already make from your projects. It's not always assured. I think the biggest challenge that comes with it is because you can find something very similar, like that are open source. But if you just do it in such a way that yours is
Like,
unique, and so
yes.
kuna kwanga na zingine, the challenge with monetizing UI kits or design systems is that there are others that are normally open source.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just making sure that yours is actually of actual value and very, very in depth, very it's one of the ways you can just work around how you make some extra money. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least tumeongelea pesa kutoka mwanzo hadi mwisho. You have a question about money?
Money.
Yes.
No, I have a question about time is money, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So now that we're talking about doing your very best, putting out quality ndio uuze, of course lazima ikuwe kitu ya maana, right?
Yeah.
Unatoa wapi time in between everything you're doing to create these things? So like for you, may mention you are employed, but you I think manage to do some things on the side.
Yeah.
Unatoa wapi your time? Ama
So you remember in the beginning, I spoke about 3 hours of sleep.
oh yeah.
The truth is that you just have to make time. Either you sleep late or you wake up early, because again, everybody has 24 hours. But one of the other things they may learn is how you leverage on your nights and weekends. How you leverage on your nights, and especially like Saturdays. I don't like to have a lot of plans for Saturdays so that I can actually have time to do passion projects. Nights, I can tell myself something like from 8 o'clock to 12, I'm going to work on something that is personal. The challenge in Akwanga is that you want to do all of it. Of course, you don't do it every day of the year. I have like periods. But when you also make sure you also have time to rest. Hawezi on a series toka January mpaka December. But bana umetoka job, bana nimechoka, weekend yote uko tu mbele ya TV, Saturday, Sunday, Sunday hata church hauendi,
hata atachoka.
Exactly. So you just have to really manage your time well and manage it well. It is not very easy, and I believe there are actually apps that are out there that can help you with it. Kuna apps zenye zinaweza kukusaidia ku augment time yako in such a way that this is time for design, this is time for rest, this is time for doing this. But it's just coming down to how you manage your time, and as little as it is, I believe you can even squeeze an hour a day. It can make a very big difference.
And yeah, sure. I'll put that in. Usi time unafaa ku leverage ni weekends
and nights.
Yes. Sawa, lakini kiteka yangu ya kwanza naweza ikumbuka ilikuwa na huko katikati. Avoid paperwork. Mtoto anaweza ishika itumie, anaweza tumia
anaweza washa nayo jiko. If you can avoid paperwork, please avoid it. I mean, nowadays we have like everything is digital. Ata contracts are sent to you digitally. You put your signature on it and then you send it back. So
yeah, I think mimi nimetosheka na historia pesa.
Na historia pesa.
Sijatosheka nao ni kala theory. Lakini amesema natuma invoice.
Hiyo nimewambia that my associate will get in touch with you shortly. And she will send you an invoice.
Ni sawa.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for having me. This has been fun. This has been a lot of fun. Just being able to sit and talk to people about it's something that is usually in my mind a lot, and the ability to just have a platform to share with people about it, how to think about design beyond just moving pixels on the screen. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for actually glorifying us with your time. Unajua, you've mentioned you're a busy man. Si leo ni saa toka
Yes, I'm very
tufunge.
busy. I'm very busy. I'm very busy. I'm very busy.
I could go cruising.
I'm very busy. Thank you guys so much for. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'd also love to have you another time. Maybe focus on something more specific, how to leverage your skill in business. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that, right? Lakini kwa
Yeah.
sasa unaweza ambia watu penye watakupata, and then tutaacha description kwa nini,
Oh,
tutaacha
okay.
links kwa description. Alafu
Okay.
uambie pia wa subscribe.
Oh, so number one, wenzanguni tafadhali msubscribe. Tafadhali msubscribe, msikie mambo mazuri mazuri. You can find me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think for my professional world, I'm very active. I am on LinkedIn. I don't know if I should say I'm very active, but I am on LinkedIn. Everything about me, including a link to my portfolio, to everything that pertains to me, can also be found in my bio. So if anybody wants to see me, anybody wants to connect with me, come up on a project you want us to do, you can find me on LinkedIn. And don't forget, subscribe to Kenya Design Conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So, guys, that's been it. That's been our guest, our very dearest guest, Mr. Steven. We leave a lot about him in description, and this has been very valuable. Thank you for coming. That's
Thank you so
been
much.
me, Chandarata, your host.
And Elvis Mariga.